Today we are joined by Representative Mike Armanini. The House Republicans offered a package of bills aimed at business startups. What is being proposed in this package?
Good morning, Ellen. It's great to be here with you today. What is being proposed in this package is mainly startup help for new companies who are wanting to come into Pennsylvania and to bring them along. As we know, it's so extremely competitive for new industries, new startups to come into Pennsylvania. I don't believe we are the most friendly state in the United States to start up with regulations and so forth. So this is just, say, something else in the toolbox that we're hoping to be able to come up with that will help startup companies and for more companies to look at Pennsylvania as their base for them to, of course, have a very prosperous and long, successful company.
You proposed 3 of the 8 bills in this package. What drew you to propose a legislation like this?
Well, you know what drew me to propose is, of course, talking to my other colleagues and leadership, thinking, how can we promote business in Pennsylvania? I myself am a true startup company. I started 2 companies before I came into the House and, had a very successful career in the powdered metal manufacturing industry. So I want that opportunity to be present moving on because it gave me a great opportunity to be able to be successful right here in Pennsylvania. And I'm starting to see some of that. I don't want to say not moving forward, but I think we're missing out on some great opportunities that I don't want to see go away. So I'm just trying to put my effort in, along with my colleagues' effort in, on trying to make Pennsylvania, still the cornerstone of our country.
How important are startup businesses to Pennsylvania's economy?
Well, it's very important. Startup businesses, normally are started on someone's idea or someone wanting to break into an industry that is already in existence, or bringing in a whole new industry that has never been, thought of in Pennsylvania. So you need to have that, because if we do not have that economic growth in Pennsylvania, and right now we're really in a bad situation, I think, in Pennsylvania, because we're still not moving forward, say, with the word to some people, it's like, oh my, fossil fuels. I'm sorry. We are going to have to produce natural gas now and well into the future to be a sustainable and thriving economy and for everyday life, in Pennsylvania. People have to realize that you're not going to get away from natural gas, how so many people want to do. It's absolute foolish to think that way. If you know of anything of, say, the cracker plant outside of Pittsburgh and Beaver, I've had the opportunity to tour that facility. What they're doing with natural gas by splitting it into different hydrogens, making plastics, making this product, it is amazing. We need that. There should be 4 cracker plants throughout Pennsylvania. We should not be moving forward with industries like that, which are new applications for, natural gas, which has been around forever. And we have the cleanest natural gas in the world. For Pennsylvania not to take advantage of that is completely foolish, and that it is going to cause economic hardship very badly in Pennsylvania. So I would really wish people would start getting a little bit more common sense with that industry and other industries to be able to let Pennsylvania prosper like it should. So, going back to what you asked with startups and so forth, it is good. It gives people an opportunity. Entrepreneurship is one of the greatest, feelings that you can have. It's very scary. I can be honest with you. When I started my companies, I signed everything that I owned away, and it was like, okay, my success or failure is based on my efforts, my partner's efforts, and the people that we were able to employ. And, I was very pleased when we were able to grow our company to 150 workers, offering them a very good wage, health insurance, 401ks. We are doing what we need to do in Pennsylvania to keep people here. And we really need to stress on working with these companies and individuals who want to continue to bring that.
What are some things that are required to make a successful startup business?
A lot of guts, a lot of late nights, just an uncontrollable willingness to succeed, just like a professional athlete, and so forth. You really have to have your A game every day because you're going to hit obstacles, you're going to hit competition, you're going to hit shortfalls, you're going to hit downfalls, but you have to know your industry and you have to realize the time and effort that is going to be required and the sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And of course, if you are, have a family and so forth, they're going to make a tremendous amount of sacrifices too. So it's not for everybody, but thank God that people do take that initiative to have that in themselves to want to succeed.
Places like New York City or Silicon Valley are the places where you see startup businesses the most. What can Pennsylvania do to make themselves, open to startup businesses to take away from these businesses going straight to Silicon Valley or New York City?
Well, Silicon Valley, New York City. What do they offer? They both have different characteristics that make them a very good eye candy, to say they have what they need there. But, we're also seeing that both of those locations are, losing. Silicon Valley out in California, you can say what you want. California is a mess. It's because they're overregulated. They're putting in, these laws that just do not allow people to live. So I'm not a fan of that type of thinking and moving forward, if you want to call it moving forward. They've had an onslaught of people leaving California. New York City, of course, it's the Big Apple. But they've done a lot of things in New York that Pennsylvania hasn't. They have put in through the state of New York a tremendous amount of funding for these startups, and you can see that on the the new facilities that they have outside of New York City for chips. This is a highly automated, a highly new successful, but there are billions of dollars. If you want to compete with the big boys, you're going to have to come out and you're going to have to be able to offer what they have to offer. Pennsylvania, on that other hand, you're talking regulations through the roof. It takes forever to get a permit. We're not a friendly state for new businesses to come in. And regardless of what the governor is trying to do, it's not enough. And these programs have to be business oriented and friendly for that new startup company to want to come in here. Right now with energy, I'm going to always keep going back to energy. Right now, energy in Pennsylvania is very volatile. What are we going to do if the governor, this Reggie, or we put these taxes on fuels and so forth? It's more than just you and I as consumers paying a higher electric bill, a higher natural gas bill. What does this do to industry? I know when I was in industry, my energy costs were about 20% of my product that I had to put in because we use, so much of it. So when you put that in a factor and you want me to move my company to Pennsylvania, where I have no idea where your energy stance is going to be in 4 or 5 years, right now we can see energy going 20, 30, 40% higher. I'm not coming to Pennsylvania with that threat. And then the other thing that we have is regulations. We have these, say, rare earth minerals. Everything that is being used in manufacturing of solar panels and so forth, and new technology. Believe it or not, these elements, which are basically now in China and India, which is in no way have any environmental overlook on them, making sure that they're being environmental friendly are in place. And we are just using that left and right because we're in this solar phase, but it's all coming from China. Makes no sense. But we have these minerals, believe it or not, in our old abandoned coal mine areas. So we can continue to clean these areas up by going in and possibly, working to get these critical minerals that lie beneath the ground of Pennsylvania. But from the companies who are doing it, say in Utah and Texas, they want to come to Pennsylvania. But when I sit down and talk with these companies, they're like, we're not coming to Pennsylvania until we have in writing some type of, regulation, or not, I don't even want to use the word regulation. Do we have a commitment from Pennsylvania that once we get started, you're not going to throw everything at us because, oh, yes, we're going to have to dig in the ground. We are going to have to do this procedure. And right now it's a fight because we have so many people who just want to do nothing with that. And that's moving backwards. And if we take that stance, Pennsylvania is going to fall back with the economy, with startup companies. We are just going to become a highly taxed commonwealth. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. And I think this is where the governor's administration and other members in the Senate and the House, they're not thinking clearly. And we need to start using common sense, and so many don't have it.
The first of your 3 bills in this package would designate March 18th to the 24th as Commonwealth Startup Week. How important is it that these businesses are highlighted?
Well, I think it's important to be highlighted so people can see how many new companies and industries that we do have and the potential of more that can come to Pennsylvania. So I think that was just, a good preview and a good startup to say, let's start looking at this on how we can make Pennsylvania stronger. And these companies, of course, have had success. And I think what it also is just to give people out there who may not realize the new industries that are popping up, it seems daily, because of how the world is changing and, new industries that we need to keep developing. And in the future, we will, they will establish themselves as permanent and well-established companies that will help the Commonwealth grow. We need their revenue. Without their revenue, that means taxes for you and I go up, and we can't have that.
What kinds of things can people do to recognize these state business startups during Business Startup Week?
Well, I think what they can do is, of course, we have to make it available for them to be able to read up on it and to see actually what Pennsylvania is doing and what we have to offer. Because so often, not everyone really knows what we have to offer and how do we go about with making that we can somehow attract these industries to let them know, I'm going to use an old cliche, you have a friend in Pennsylvania to be able to start up, and we want you to do extremely well here. We have the universities and schools, the trades. We have a fantastic workforce. We just need to showcase them.
Can you walk us through the life cycle of a business startup, like from beginning to end or till they're most successful, what it would look like?
Okay, well, I'll try and do that in a very short version. Well, first, the thing that you have is, of course, you're going to need funding. So you need to have a well-oiled business plan written that when you go into a bank or you're going out to investors, that you can show them in details on this is my business plan, and this is how it is from stage 1. This is stage 2 where we're experiencing growth. And then here is stage 3, say when we become one of the main players in the industry and how we just foresee growth. So, when I was in business, my plan was for 10 years. and they wanted to see, okay, what is your cost of equipment? Who was your customer base? How are you going to achieve this customer base? Who was your competition? And so forth. So you really have to have a detailed plan, and you have to know for sure that you can sell that plan. That's your first sell job, is to how do I get funding to make this happen? So that's the most important. Once you have your funding established, and then you can move forward towards, okay, do I need to build a factory? Am I moving into an industrial park that is already there? And I'm talking manufacturing, but some of these industries, they just need they can work out of their home. With some now. So I think that has changed a little bit, because I'm more geared towards a hands-on manufacturing startups, to whereas that's just now a small part of what is out there with these new industries that are coming about, with technology and just with the need of new types of industries that are coming up because of how the world is changing. So I think that's the most important thing, because once you have that, then that's your foundation. And then it's up to you as the individual. How do I follow this business plan? Because your banks or your investors, that's kind of like your Bible that you just wrote for them, and they're going to be following that with you, as you're saying, in your time frame. If you're, let's say, hopefully you're 2 years into your business plan. Well, are you where you're at, where you have planned? Are you ahead of it? Why are you ahead of it? If you're not at where you're at, why are you behind? So you really have to be prepared with that. But then again, it comes down to that individual who really, that's a different person, because they are not afraid of taking risk, because they know that if they work hard and they believe in themselves and their workers who they've hired to achieve the goal. So I would have to say, quote, in a nutshell, that's really important, following your business plan and how are you going to achieve it. Because if you're able to do that, that is going to definitely imply success.
Your second bill in this package establishes a task force on startup venture opportunities. What would this task force do?
Well, what this task force would do is this would help the administration and so forth to bring founders and venture funders together in the Commonwealth, to let them know this is what Pennsylvania is doing to try and bring you to Pennsylvania for your startup business. How can we help you? How can we move forward to making you successful? Because when you're successful, the Commonwealth is successful. So that is the goal. The goal is to keep Pennsylvania one of the top states in the country in manufacturing, in education, in agricultural. The whole list, goes down the road. We have definitely been one of the most successful states from the beginning of our country. We need to be doing things correctly so we can maintain that status, because there's always someone like the state of Ohio who, the governor, I'm tired of getting beat from, Ohio. Governor, you will never win against Ohio until you change your true thinking on business development, because they're doing everything, your restrictions that your party is not for. So you're never going to win that game. So you need to start thinking differently so we can be a player. I think Pennsylvania, as you know, right now, we're at the bottom. And we've been at the bottom. That needs to change. But that's not going to change with current regulations and the way we've been doing things for the last 8 years. We were at the top. We brought ourselves down to the bottom. We need to be creative. We need to work together in unison to make this happen.
The text of this bill states that this legislation will integrate the philosophy of business startups into the Commonwealth's governmental structure. Why do you think this philosophy was never considered before in state government, or at least in Pennsylvania state government?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not really sure. Maybe because they didn't have legislators like myself and my colleagues who are looking at this and thinking, okay, this is very important. How do we move forward with this? Well, these are some ideas, and myself and I know a few others who have bills. We're actually, we live this. We started companies, and we know what helped us, and we know what did not help us. I know for a fact that when I was doing it, some of the state funding with the requirements and everything you had to do, I went away from it. I said, no, I'm not going through this process. It takes too long. It's inefficient. You're asking me for a lot more information that I think is required. I will work with my bank and pay a higher interest rate because I'm not going through all your red tape and regulations. So I think this is helping because it's making aware that for this to work, we have to be more friendly with these startups because our quote, other states, our competition is giving them the red carpet. We need to make sure that we can offer this, we have to offer the same or you're not going to be competitive. We have to offer more. So how do we do this? We need to start investing in companies who want to come to Pennsylvania, but with what other people are offering with tax incentives and so forth, it's really it's a risk for Pennsylvania because you're putting out, a tremendous amount of dollars, which again comes from you and I, the taxpayers, and we have to make sure that we're doing this. So in the end, by these companies being successful, maybe that'll start bringing down taxes in Pennsylvania. Maybe it'll make us stronger for now and into the future. So I think it's very integral to make sure that the startups are comfortable with knowing that Pennsylvania, quote, government is not going to turn their back on them. And I don't think right now a lot of the new have that good feeling.
The third piece of legislation that you proposed in this bill would, quote, build a robust ecosystem in Pennsylvania to develop homegrown startups. What does this mean?
Well, I think with what we have to offer here in Pennsylvania, we have natural resources, we have a great workforce, we have educational facilities, we have the background of everything that we do need here in Pennsylvania for that startup company to be able to utilize Pennsylvanians to grow. So we're not missing out on anything. We're one of the lucky states that have this. We have the energy. We're just not using our energy efficiently and economically. We should be growing that industry, as I mentioned earlier, by more cracker plants throughout the Commonwealth, because that is just the tip of the iceberg on the future of plastics and all components that you and I use every day, from clothing to cell phones to cosmetic, everything. The natural gas is so integral and a needed agent for life in general. Why are we not taking advantage of that? I do not know. So, going back to, just making Pennsylvania part of that, we really are able to demonstrate and open up our policy, open up our door saying, everything you need to be successful is here in Pennsylvania. Come, let's talk. Let's make your new startup company happen. Let's let you be successful, which will then bring more Pennsylvanians successful because you'll be able to offer them, very good paying jobs, benefits, and keep our Commonwealth strong.
Can you briefly summarize the remaining 5 bills of this package, the ones that your colleagues created? I know that there's one about a student startup incubator network. There's 2 involving tax credits, one with a startup investment tax credit, and one called the research and development tax credit. Could you just summarize those a little bit?
Well, I think what that is when we sat down and tried to, bring this whole package of bills together, you will see we are trying to hit every aspect of Pennsylvania to make this work. We're branching out to colleges, university, trades. We're kind of hitting everybody. No one is being excluded from this because a kind of like an all-in approach. If we can have everyone participating in this to help and to grow Pennsylvania, and just every part of these bills are integral and exchangeable and so forth, and being successful to Pennsylvania, here is a plan that can we have conversation on, can we work all together to make Pennsylvania better? That's the goal. And I think these group of bills does that. And I'm sure there'll be much conversation in committees and so forth, but that's what we need. We need good conversation. We need good policies. We need good bills, thoroughly thought through. Way too many times we pass bills that still have gray areas to them, and we find out once they're in place, oh boy, we missed this and we missed that. And what does that do? That hurts Pennsylvania. And we never should rush things for that to ever happen. And I think that happens sometimes, but I think this group of bills is thoroughly looking through everything to make sure that this is a win-win for everybody.
Representative Mike Armanini, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. A half an hour already. Holy cow.